Hey there, it's Robin, and the topic I have for you today has to do with busy work. I'm thinking through the concept, and I wanted to share some of my thoughts with you. At first blush, before I really started thinking through this topic, I might have guessed that I was not a fan of busy work because you've probably heard me talk about my desire for meaningful, deep connections, meaningful conversations, and meaningful work to do in this world. But I surprised myself by realizing that there are some things about busy work that I believe are of value. And so, first, what do I mean when I say the term busy work? Typically, busy work is something that is given to us or we give to ourselves in order to avoid being idle or bored. It is possibly work we do that is very low risk and not very productive, but it gives the impression of being busy or possibly of being of value. And so as I thought through this, I realized in the context of my creative practice, my mental and well being practice, and the ways that I operate in the world, I think busy work has something to recommend it. So, my practice and the things that I advocate to other people, the things that I teach in my workshop, very much are related to health and well-being and mental health. I believe that our world is very hustle and bustle. It's fast, fast, fast. It's instant gratification, quick turn, very much about value added. And I think it depends on the context. So, for instance, if I were at work in my day job, then productivity is of the utmost importance. We are there for a reason. We are being paid for a reason. And the product and the speed at which we realize that product matters. I'll set that aside for a moment because I actually think, even in that context, there is some value in busy work, or there can be. However, let's shift to the context of our personal lives and our creative practices, or our approaches to mental health and well being. In that context, busy work might be of value because in that world that I just described, where everything is moving so quickly and we are just focused on the outcome or the product, that doesn't leave a lot of space or time, mental energy for thinking deeply, for branching off into areas that are not a part of that productivity. And it doesn't leave a lot of room for winging it or innovation. So I think that in our lives and creative practices, we very much should leave room for busy work. One example in my own creative practice is something I call art pages. Art pages are something that I do almost mindlessly most of the time. I always have a stack of them on my workbench and I work through them, I layer them, I move them about. I use all of the creative practices and techniques that I talk about in my workshops for these art pages. I'm not using them for anything right away. In fact, they may need to go through that stack multiple times before they actually become something that I consider finished or that I would actually pull and put into some of my artwork. But that doesn't mean that the work that I'm putting into them is not of value. And it doesn't mean that the things I'm learning as I do that, or even the things I'm thinking as I work through that process, aren't desirable or of value. I think that in order for our brains to think creatively, we need some margins and we need some room for thinking. And so to me, I realized this afternoon, busy work can be incredibly useful and needful, and possibly lead to enormous productivity at a different time, just not at this time. And some other reasons that I think busy work in the context of our creative practices or our lives can be useful is sometimes busy work can reduce anxiety and really increase our mental health, because we love certainty. Human beings don't operate very well in a consistent or constant environment of stress and uncertainty. And so if there are times when we have been working on something, with heightened urgency, if there are times when we don't have a lot of certainty in our lives or even in our practices, then busy work might be a great buffer or something really nice to punctuate those uncertain spaces. It gives us a breather. It gives us time to realize, oh, we're in control of this. We're doing this work. Maybe it's repetitive. Maybe it's almost plug and play and push the button. It allows our brains to engage or maybe even kick off in a way, turn off in a way that gives us that space and that reassurance of certainty in the world. And so I was a little surprised to realize that I believe this, because it's not really what I thought I would think. I was also kind of interested to watch myself go through this thought process and have this realization. So I guess today the message I'm bringing to you is open up some space for busy work, particularly if you are a very productive person. You are a person who holds yourself accountable to goals. You can possibly be critical with yourself as you're doing that and holding yourself to a very high standard. I'm not advocating for lethargy. I'm not advocating for mediocrity. I'm not saying that we want to fill our lives with rote tasks and busy work. Of course not. That's actually the antithesis of what I want for myself and what I want for you. But I am saying that possibly if we can find a good balance between this deep and engaging work, between deep research and connectivity, and this busy work, if we can allow space for that in our lives, then perhaps it can allow us to have the right balance, have a break, not constantly be worried, stressed out, anxious, or even just aware of looming deadlines or pressure. And so I hope that you think through this today, and if it's applicable to you and something that makes sense to you, maybe you implement some concepts from this. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I appreciate every moment that you spend, because I know time is precious, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.